Kira Voss sat alone in the dark room and watched the stars through her window. She had been watching them for 4 years now. 4 years of silence. 4 years of nothing but her own thoughts and the hum of the old station around her. She liked it this way. She told herself this every morning when she woke up and every night before she slept. She liked being alone. She needed to be alone. People only brought pain, and she had felt enough pain to last a lifetime. Station Meridian was her home now. It was an old research station that floated around a dying red star at the edge of known space. Nobody came here. Nobody wanted to. The star would burn out in a few thousand years, and there was nothing of value in this system. It was the perfect place to disappear. Kira was 34 years old. She had dark hair that she cut short because there was no one to look nice for. She had brown eyes that used to be warm but had turned cold over the years. She was thin because she often forgot to eat, and she was pale because she rarely left the station. Once, she had been different. Once, she had been the youngest scientist ever accepted into the Terran research corps. She had been 23 when she discovered her first alien species in the Outer Rim. She had been full of hope back then, full of belief that humans could make friends with the other races of the galaxy. That she had been a fool. The galaxy was not a friendly place for humans. They had only joined the larger galactic community 100 years ago, and most of the older races looked down on them. The Vethani, with their silver skin and tall bodies, called humans primitive. They used humans as servants and workers, never as equals. The Kreth, who looked like giant insects with sharp claws and teeth, saw humans as food. They would eat any human they caught alone in deep space. And the Dominion, the oldest and most powerful race in the galaxy, simply wanted humans gone. They saw humanity as a disease that needed to be removed. Kira had learned all of this the hard way, 6 years ago. She had led a research team to a frozen moon called Caldera 7. There was a small alien colony there, a group of beings called Moravi who were dying from a strange sickness. Kira and her team had gone to help them. They had brought medicine and supplies. They had worked day and night to save the Moravi children who were suffering the most. But the Moravi had made a deal with the Kreth. They traded the human scientists for weapons and food. Kira watched from a hiding spot as the Kreth took her team one by one. She heard their screams. She could do nothing to stop it. She was the only one who escaped. When she returned to human space, she expected justice. She expected the Galactic Council to punish the Moravi and the Kreth for what they had done. Instead, the Council blamed humanity. They said the humans had interfered where they did not belong. They said Kira had caused the incident by trying to help a species that did not want help. The message was clear. Humans were not welcome. Humans should stay in their own small corner of the galaxy and stop trying to reach out to others. After that, Kira stopped trying. She asked for the most distant assignment she could find. Station Meridian was perfect. No crew, no partners, no contact with anyone. She would study dead planets and record information about extinct species. She would work alone until she died alone, and that was fine with her. The station's computer was her only companion. She had programmed it to speak only when necessary. She did not want conversation. She did not want friendship. She wanted silence. For 4 years, she got what she wanted. Then the signal came. Kira was eating her dinner. A tasteless protein bar that provided nutrients but no pleasure when her scanner started beeping. She frowned and walked over to look at it. Nobody ever came to this sector. There was nothing here worth visiting, but the scanner showed a small object approaching the station. It was an escape pod, the kind used by military ships when they were destroyed. It was damaged and barely working. Its emergency beacon was the only thing still sending a signal, and that signal was human. Kira stared at the screen for a long time. Her finger moved toward the button that would ignore the signal. She could pretend she never saw it. She could let the pod drift away into the endless dark of space. Whoever was inside would die, but they were probably already dead anyway. It would be easier, safer. She would not have to talk to anyone. She would not have to explain her life or hear about theirs. She would not have to feel anything. Her finger hovered over the button. She thought about the screams on Caldera 7. She thought about her team, the people she had worked with and laughed with and cared about. She thought about how she had run while they died. She could not save them. But maybe she could save whoever was in that pod. Kira hated herself for the thought. She hated the weakness inside her that still cared about human life. She had spent 4 years trying to kill that part of herself, and she had failed. She pressed the button to guide the pod into her docking bay. The wait felt like hours, though it was only minutes. Kira put on her work suit and walked down to the bay. The air was cold there, and she could see her breath in front of her face. The lights were dim because she never used this part of the station. The pod landed with a heavy thump. Smoke rose from its damaged hull. Kira could see burn marks all over it, signs of weapons fire. Whatever had happened to this person, it had been violent. She opened the pod's door and looked inside. There was a man. He was younger than her, maybe 30 years old. He had short, dark hair and a face that might have been handsome before pain and exhaustion had marked it. He wore the uniform of the Terran Defense Force, and his rank showed he was a sergeant. His name tag said Daniel Gray. He was unconscious. There was a wound in his side that was bleeding slowly, and his breathing was weak and uneven. His skin had a strange gray color that Kira recognized immediately. Creth. Venom. He had been stung by one of the insect creatures. The poison was spreading through his body, killing him slowly from the inside. Without treatment, he would be dead within hours. Kira looked at him and felt nothing. She told herself she felt nothing. This was just a body, a stranger, someone she did not know and did not want to know. She could close the pod and push it back into space. No one would ever find out. No one would ever blame her. But her hands were already reaching for him, pulling him out of the pod, dragging him toward her medical bay. She cursed herself the entire way. The medical bay was small but well-equipped. Kira had made sure of that when she arrived. She never expected to use it on another person, but she had kept it ready anyway. Old habits were hard to break. She put Daniel on the bed and started working. The Creth venom was tricky. It attacked the nervous system and shut down organs one by one. She had studied it during her time in the research course, and she knew how to make an antidote. But she did not have all the ingredients she needed. She would have to improvise for 6 hours. She worked without stopping. She mixed chemicals and tested formulas. She injected Daniel with medicines and watched his vital signs on her monitor. 3 times, his heart stopped, and 3 times, she brought him back. She did not know why she tried so hard. She did not know why she cared whether this stranger lived or died. She only knew that she could not let him go without a fight. Finally, near midnight, his breathing became steady. His skin started to return to its normal color. The poison was fading from his blood. He would live. Kira sat down in the chair across the room, as far from his bed as she could get. She was exhausted, covered in sweat, and her hands were shaking. She had not worked that hard in years. She watched him sleep and waited for him to wake up. She did not know yet that this stranger would change everything. She did not know that he carried secrets that would pull her back into the world she had left behind. She did not know that Daniel Gray would teach her what it meant to be human again. All she knew was that she had saved a life, and she was not sure if that was a good thing or a terrible mistake. Daniel Gray opened his eyes slowly. The light above him was dim and yellow, not the bright white of a military ship. The air smelled different too, like old metal and recycled oxygen. He was not where he expected to be. He tried to sit up. A pain shot through his side, and he fell back onto the bed with a groan. His body felt weak and heavy, like he had been sleeping for days. His mouth was dry, and his head was pounding. Where was he? The last thing he remembered was fire and screaming. His ship, the Valor, had been under attack. The Kreth had come out of nowhere, their black vessels cutting through space like sharks through water. Daniel had fought as long as he could, but there were too many of them. He remembered getting stung. He remembered the burning feeling spreading through his body. He remembered climbing into an escape pod and hitting the launch button just before everything went dark. He should be dead. A voice came from across the room. "You are awake." Daniel turned his head and saw a woman sitting in a chair near the wall. She was thin and pale, with short dark hair and cold brown eyes. She looked at him the way someone might look at a problem they did not want to solve. "Where am I?" he asked. His voice was rough and broken. "Station Meridian," she said. "Outer Rim, Sector 7. You were dying from Kreth venom. I made an antidote. You will recover in time." Daniel stared at her. She spoke like she was reading from a report, with no emotion in her voice at all. But she had saved his life. That had to mean something. "Thank you," he said. She did not respond to his thanks. Instead, she stood up and walked toward the door. "There is water and food on the table next to you. Eat and drink slowly, or you will be sick. When you can walk, I will give you a shuttle and coordinates to the nearest Terran outpost. You can leave then." "Wait," Daniel said. "What is your name?" She stopped at the door, but did not turn around. "It does not matter. It matters to me. You saved my life. The least I can do is know who to thank." There was a long silence. Then she said, "Kira. Kira Voss." Daniel felt something click in his mind. He knew that name. Everyone in the Terran military knew that name. "You are the survivor of Caldera 7, he said. Her back went stiff. Her hands closed into fists at her sides. "That name means nothing now. That name means everything." Daniel pushed himself up on his elbows, ignoring the pain. "I read your reports when I was in training. All of them. What happened to your team was not your fault. The Galactic Council needed someone to blame, and they chose humanity because we were easy targets." Kira turned around then, and Daniel saw something flash in her cold eyes. Anger? Pain? He could not tell. "You do not know what you are talking about," she said. "You were not there. You did not see what I saw." "No," Daniel agreed. "But I know what the Council is like. I know how they treat humans. And I know that you tried to save lives, even when everyone around you was dying. That takes courage. Courage." She said the word like it tasted bad in her mouth. "Courage is what gets people killed. I was not courageous on Caldera 7. I was foolish. I believed that if we showed kindness to other species, they would show kindness back. I was wrong." She walked out of the room before Daniel could respond. He lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. His body hurt, but his mind was racing. He had heard stories about Kira Voss over the years. Some people called her a hero. Others called her a coward who had abandoned her team. But nobody knew the truth because she had disappeared after the Council's verdict. Now he knew where she had gone. She had hidden herself away at the edge of the galaxy, alone and forgotten, trying to escape from her past. Daniel understood that feeling. He had his own ghosts, his own memories that kept him awake at night. But he had learned something, but Kira seemed to have forgotten. Running away never made the pain stop. It only made it grow stronger in the dark. Over the next few days, Daniel slowly recovered. His body was weak, and walking even a few steps made him dizzy. But he forced himself to move, to eat, to rebuild his strength. He had survived too much to give up now. Kira avoided him as much as she could. She left food outside his door and checked his vital signs when he was sleeping. But she never stayed to talk, never asked how he was feeling, never showed any sign that she cared whether he lived or died. Daniel did not give up. He was a soldier, and soldiers did not give up easily. On the fourth day, he found her in the station's small kitchen, cooking something on the old stove. He walked in slowly, leaning against the wall for support, and sat down at the table. "You should be resting," she said, without looking at him. "I have been resting for 4 days. If I rest any more, I will forget how to walk." She did not smile. Daniel had not seen her smile even once since he arrived. He wondered if she remembered how. "Tell me about yourself," he said. "There is nothing to tell. Everyone has a story. You were a scientist once. You discovered new species in the outer rim. What made you want to do that?" Kira was quiet for a long moment. She kept stirring the pot on the stove, not looking at him. Then, very softly, she said, "I wanted to prove that we were not alone. When I was a child, I used to look up at the stars and wonder what was out there. I thought that if we could meet other species, if we could learn from them and teach them, maybe the galaxy would not be such a lonely place." "And then you met them," Daniel said. "Yes, and I learned that the galaxy is even lonelier than I imagined. We are not welcome out here. We never were." Daniel leaned forward. "But we keep trying anyway. That is what makes us human." Kira finally turned to look at him. Her eyes were still cold, but there was something else there now. A crack in the wall she had built around herself. "Why are you here?" she asked. "Why were the Kreth chasing you?" Daniel took a deep breath. He had been waiting for this question, and he had decided to tell her the truth. She had saved his life. She deserved to know why. "My ship was escorting refugees," he said. "Vethany civilians. Their homeworld is dying, and the Dominion refused to help them. The Terran government offered them a place on one of our colony worlds." Kira's eyes widened. "The Vethany? They hate us. They have called us primitive for 100 years. They have. But their children were starving, and we were the only ones who offered help. It does not matter what they said about us in the past. What matters is that they needed us, and we were there." Kira shook her head slowly. "And the Kreth attacked you for helping them?" "The Kreth work for the Dominion. They did not want the Vethany to be saved. They wanted them to die quietly so the rest of the galaxy would not notice." Daniel paused. "But that is not the worst part." He looked Kira in the eyes and told her the truth that had nearly gotten him killed. The Vethany homeworld is not dying naturally. The Dominion is killing it. They are draining energy from the Vethany star to fuel their war machines. In a few decades, the star will burn out, and the Vethany will be extinct. The Dominion is committing genocide, and they are hiding it from the rest of the galaxy." Kira stood very still. Her face had gone pale. "You have proof of this?" Daniel nodded. "I recorded everything I saw. That is why the Kreth were hunting me. That is why they destroyed my ship and tried to kill me. I am the only witness. If this is true," Kira said slowly, "then the Galactic Council needs to know. The Council does not care about justice. You know that better than anyone. Then what is the point? Why did you risk your life for information that no one will use?" Daniel reached across the table and took her hand. She flinched but did not pull away. "Because humans care," he said. "Even when no one else does. Even when the whole galaxy tells us to give up, we keep fighting. That is what makes us different. That is what makes us worth saving." Kira looked at his hand holding hers. She looked at his face, at the hope in his eyes that had not been destroyed by all the pain he had experienced, and for the first time in 4 years, she felt something crack inside her. The door opening to a room she had tried to keep locked forever. She did not know yet that the Dominion was coming for them. She did not know that her quiet station would soon be a battlefield. She did not know that everything she had run from was about to catch up with her. But in that moment, sitting across from Daniel Gray, she felt something she had not felt since Caldera-7 died. She felt hope. She hated herself for it. But she could not make it stop. 2 weeks passed on Station Meridian. Daniel's body healed slowly, but he grew stronger every day. The Kreth venom had damaged his nervous system, and some mornings his hands would shake so badly he could not hold a cup. But he never complained. He just worked harder. Kira watched him from a distance, the way she watched everything. She told herself she was only keeping an eye on her patient. She told herself she did not care about him personally. But every day, the wall around her heart grew thinner. Daniel had a way of filling the silence without making it feel crowded. He did not talk all the time like some people did. He did not ask endless questions or try to make her laugh. He simply existed near her, quietly and calmly, like he belonged there. He read her old research files in the evenings. He asked smart questions about her work, questions that showed he actually understood what she had done. No one had cared about her research in years. It felt strange to have someone interested again. He exercised in the cargo bay every morning, pushing his damaged body to do more than it wanted to. Kira sometimes watched him through the security cameras, though she would never admit it. There was something beautiful about his determination, the way he refused to let his injuries define him, and he cooked. Kira had been eating protein bars and nutrition paste for 4 years. She had forgotten what real food tasted like. But Daniel found ingredients in her emergency supplies that she did not even know were there. He made soups and stews and breads that filled the station with smells she had not experienced since Earth. On the 10th night, he made her sit down and eat with him at the same table. "You need to eat better," he said, pushing a bowl toward her. "You are too thin. I eat enough to survive. Surviving is not the same as living." She looked at him across the table. The dim lights of the kitchen made shadows on his face. His eyes were kind, the way they always were. She did not understand how he could still have kind eyes after everything he had been through. "Why do you care?" she asked. "Because you saved my life. Because you are a human being, alone at the edge of space, and you deserve better than protein bars and silence." He smiled a little. "Because I like you, even though you try very hard to make that difficult." Kira felt her face grow warm. She looked down at her bowl and did not respond. They ate in silence for a while. The food was good. Better than good. She had forgotten how much comfort a warm meal could bring. "Tell me about the Vethany," she said finally. "The ones you were helping." Daniel set down his spoon. His eyes grew distant, remembering. There were about 300 of them on our ship. Mostly families. Mothers and fathers with young children. Grandparents who could barely walk. They had lost everything when they fled their planet. And they accepted help from humans? Not at first. When we arrived at their refugee camp, they would not even look at us. They had been taught their whole lives that humans were beneath them. Primitives. Animals. Some of the adults still felt that way when they boarded our ship. What changed? Daniel smiled. The children. Human soldiers started playing with the Vethany children, while their parents were being processed for the journey. We gave them food and toys and blankets. We made them laugh. He paused, and his smile grew sad. The Vethany children had never seen aliens be kind to them before. They did not know that was possible. And when the parents saw their children laughing with human soldiers, something changed in their eyes. Kira felt a tightness in her chest. She thought about the Moravi children on Caldera-7, the ones she had tried to save before everything went wrong. She had made them laugh too, once. "One of the mothers came to me the night before the Kreth attacked," Daniel continued. "Her name was something I could not pronounce. So she told me to call her Sarah. She had a little girl, maybe 5 years old, who was sick with a fever. What happened? I sat with them all night. I held cold claws to the little girl's forehead and told her stories about Earth, about oceans and mountains and forests full of animals. She had never heard of such things. Her planet was all desert and rock. Daniel's voice grew quiet. By morning, her fever broke. Sarah looked at me with tears in her eyes and said something I will never forget. She said, "I was wrong about your people. I hope my daughter grows up to be as brave as you." Kira did not trust herself to speak. Her throat felt tight and her eyes were burning. "That is why I risked my life," Daniel said. "Not for politics or justice, or even for proof of the Dominion's crimes. I did it for Sarah and her daughter. I did it for the children who deserve to grow up in a galaxy that is not controlled by monsters." They sat in silence for a long time. The station hummed around them, and the stars turned slowly outside the windows. Finally, Kira spoke. "On Caldera 7, there was a Moravi boy. He was about 10 years old. His name was something like Riven. He was one of the first to get sick, and he was getting worse every day. She had not talked about this in 6 years. The words came slowly, painfully, like pulling thorns from an old wound. I worked with him for hours every day, trying to find a cure. He was scared of me at first. The Moravi had been told that humans carried diseases. But after a while, he started to trust me. He would hold my hand when I gave him injections. He would smile when I came into the room. Her voice broke slightly, but she kept going. The night before the Kreth came, Riven's fever finally broke. He was going to survive. I told him that everything would be okay, that he would grow up to be strong and healthy. He believed me. What happened to him? Kira closed her eyes. The Kreth took him with the others. He was probably the first one they ate. Children are easier to catch. The silence that followed was heavy and dark. I could not save him, Kira said. I could not save any of them. And when I came back to human space, the council told me it was my fault. They said I should never have tried to help the Moravi in the first place. They were wrong. Were they? She opened her eyes and looked at Daniel. I went there to save lives, and everyone died. If I had never gone, if I had never tried to help, maybe the Moravi would have made a different deal. Maybe they would have found another way to survive. Daniel shook his head firmly. Or maybe they would have died anyway, alone and forgotten. At least you tried. At least you gave them a chance. A chance that ended in screams and blood. That was not your fault. That was the fault of the Moravi who betrayed you, and the Kreth who hunted you, and the council that blamed you. You did nothing wrong except care about people who needed help. Kira wanted to argue. She wanted to list all the mistakes she had made, all the ways she had failed. But looking at Daniel, at the certainty in his eyes, she found that she could not. He reached across the table and took her hand again. This time, she did not flinch. You have been punishing yourself for 6 years, he said. Hiding here alone because you think you do not deserve to be around people. But that is not true. The galaxy needs people like you, Kira. People who care enough to try, even when trying is dangerous. The galaxy does not want people like me. Then the galaxy is wrong. He squeezed her hand gently. And humans have a long history of proving the galaxy wrong. That night, for the first time since Caldera 7, Kira did not have nightmares. She dreamed instead of oceans and mountains, of children laughing and stars that burned, bright and warm. She woke up feeling something she had almost forgotten existed. She felt like herself again. The feeling did not last. On the 19th day, just after breakfast, the station's alarm began to sound. Kira ran to the control room and looked at her scanner. Her blood went cold. A Dominion warship was approaching. It was massive, larger than anything she had ever seen. with weapons powerful enough to destroy planets. It was coming straight for Station Meridian. They found Daniel Gray, and they were coming to finish what the Creth had started. The rescue ships found Daniel drifting in the wreckage of his shuttle. He was alive, barely, with new wounds added to his old ones. The medics who brought him aboard the Terran cruiser said it was a miracle he had survived. Kira knew it was not a miracle. It was stubbornness. Daniel Gray was too stubborn to die. She stayed by his bed for 3 days while the fleet took them back to Terran space. She held his hand and talked to him, even though he was unconscious and could not hear her. She told him about her childhood on Earth, about the first time she saw the stars through a telescope, about all the dreams she had given up when she fled to Station Meridian. She told him things she had never told anyone. On the 3rd day, he opened his eyes. "Kira?" His voice was weak and rough, but it was the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. "I am here." She squeezed his hand tighter. "You are safe." The fleet came. The Dominion ran away. Daniel smiled slowly. "Did the broadcast work?" "Yes, everyone received it. The whole sector knows what the Dominion is doing to the Bethany." "Dude." He closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them again. "You came back for me." "Of course I did." She felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "That is what humans do." The Terran fleet brought them to New Houston Station, the largest human base in the Outer Rim. News of their broadcast had spread through the sector like fire. Every screen and every channel was talking about the Dominion's crimes. Politicians were demanding investigations. Diplomats were sending angry messages. The Galactic Council, which had ignored humanity for so long, was suddenly very interested in what humans had to say. Kira and Daniel became famous overnight. They did not want fame. They did not ask for it. But the galaxy decided they were heroes, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. The Vithani government sent a message of thanks to the Terran president. They apologized for the century of hatred and insults. They said they had been wrong about humans all along. Sarah, the mother Daniel had told Kira about, recorded a video message that played on every human news channel. She held her daughter in her arms and cried as she thanked the soldiers who had saved her life. The Galactic Council opened an official investigation into the Dominion's actions. For the first time in history, a major galactic power was being held accountable for genocide. And it was all because of a scientist who had hidden herself away, and a soldier who refused to let the truth die. Kira watched all of this from her hospital room, where she was recovering from exhaustion and minor injuries. She still could not believe it was real. For 6 years, she had believed that nothing humans did would ever matter, that the galaxy would always hate them, always blame them, always push them aside. She had been wrong. A week after they arrived at New Houston, Daniel walked into her room. He was moving slowly, still healing from his wounds, but his eyes were bright and alive. "The doctors say you can leave today," he said. "I know." She looked at the window, at the stars beyond. "I do not know where to go. I have an idea about that." He sat down on the edge of her bed and took her hand. "The Terran Research Corps has offered me a position. They want me to lead a new expedition to document what the Dominion has done to other worlds. They think there might be more species being killed in secret, and they want humans to be the ones who find the truth." "That sounds important." "It is. It is. But I cannot do it alone. I need a partner." He looked into her eyes. "Someone who knows how to research alien species. Someone who has experience with difficult first contact situations. Someone who cares about justice as much as I do." Kira felt her heart beating faster. "Are you asking me to join you?" "I am asking you to come back." Daniel squeezed her hand. "Not just to the research corps, but to life. To humanity. You have been hiding for too long, Kira. The galaxy needs people like you. I need people like you. She thought about everything she had lost. Her team on Caldera 7, her belief in kindness, her hope that humans could make a difference. She had buried all of those things when she fled to Station Meridian, but Daniel had helped her find them again. Slowly, painfully, he had cracked open the wall she had built around herself and reminded her who she used to be. "What if I fail again?" she asked. "What if people die because of me? Then we will mourn them. We will remember them. And then we will keep trying." Daniel leaned closer. "That is all any of us can do, Kira. Keep trying. Keep caring. Keep refusing to give up, no matter how many times the galaxy kicks us down." She looked at him for a long moment. This man who had crashed into her life and turned everything upside down. This soldier who had taught her that bonds were not weaknesses, but strengths. "Yes," she said finally. "I will join you." Daniel's face broke into a smile brighter than any star she had ever seen. 1 year later, Kiraverse stood on the bridge of the research vessel Discovery. Around her, a crew of 20 humans worked at their stations, monitoring sensors and communications and navigation. They were about to enter a new solar system, one that had never been explored by any species. Daniel stood beside her, holding a cup of coffee in one hand and a datapad in the other. He still had scars from his injuries, but they did not slow him down. Nothing slowed him down. "Are you ready?" he asked. Kira looked out the window at the unknown stars ahead. She thought about everything that had brought her here. The pain of Caldera 7, the loneliness of Station Meridian, the terror of facing the Dominion, and the hope, the stubborn human hope, that had survived all of it. "I am ready," she said. The ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, carrying them toward a new adventure. Behind them, the galaxy was changing. The Dominion had been forced to answer for their crimes. The Vethni had become humanity's allies, working together to rebuild their dying world. Other species were starting to look at humans differently, not as primitives or threats, but as partners. It was not perfect. The galaxy was still dangerous, still full of beings who hated and feared anything different from themselves. There would be more battles to fight, more injustices to expose, more sacrifices to make. But humanity would face all of it together. That was their greatest strength. Not their technology or their weapons or their numbers. It was their ability to form bonds, to care about each other, to refuse to leave anyone behind. Kira had rejected any human bond for 4 years. She had believed that isolation was the only way to survive. Then a soldier had appeared before her, broken and dying and full of hope. He had shown her that bonds were not chains, but wings. They did not hold you down. They lifted you up. She looked at Daniel standing beside her, and she smiled. "Whatever we find out there," she said, "we will face it together." He took her hand and squeezed it gently. Together. The stars rushed past them, beautiful and endless and full of possibility. And somewhere in that vast darkness, 2 humans flew toward the unknown, carrying the flame of hope that would never go out, because that was what humans did. They kept trying, they kept caring, they kept reaching for the stars, and they never, ever gave up. The Dominion warship grew larger on the scanner with every passing minute. Kira stared at the screen, watching their death approach. The ship was shaped like a black dagger, covered in weapons that could tear through any defense. Against something like that, Station Meridian was nothing more than a target. Daniel ran into the control room, still pulling on his jacket. "How long do we have?" 20 minutes. "Maybe less. Can we run?" Kira shook her head. "The station has 1 shuttle. It is fast, but not fast enough to outrun a Dominion warship. They would catch us before we reached the nearest safe zone." Daniel looked at the screen, his jaw tight. "They tracked my escape pod. The beacon was sending signals the whole time you were saving my life. I led them straight to you. You did not know. That does not matter. You were safe here, alone and hidden. Now you are going to die because of me." Kira turned away from the screen and looked at him. There was guilt in his eyes, deep and painful. She understood that feeling well. She had carried it herself for 6 years. "I made a choice when I saved you," she said. "I could have pushed your pod back into space. I could have let you die. But I did not. Whatever happens now, that choice was mine." Daniel grabbed her arm. "Then we need to make another choice. We need to find a way out of this. There is no way out. The Dominion does not negotiate. They do not take prisoners. They will destroy this station and everyone on it, and then they will pretend we never existed. Then, we make sure they cannot pretend." Daniel's eyes suddenly lit up with an idea. "You said this station used to be a communications relay. Does the equipment still work?" Kira thought for a moment. "Some of it. The main transmitter was damaged years ago, but I might be able to repair it." "Why?" "If we can get the transmitter working, we can broadcast my evidence to every ship and station in the sector. The Dominion cannot hide what they are doing to the Bethany if everyone sees the proof. They will destroy us before the broadcast is complete. Maybe, but the truth will survive. That is what matters." Kira looked at the Dominion warship on her screen. It was getting closer, its weapons charging with deadly light. In 15 minutes, they would be in firing range. In 20, they would be dead. She thought about her life here on Station Meridian. 4 years of silence and solitude. 4 years of hiding from a galaxy that had rejected her. She had told herself that she was content, that she wanted nothing more than to be left alone until she died. But that was not true. She knew that now. Meeting Daniel had reminded her of the person she used to be, the scientist who wanted to discover new worlds, the dreamer who believed humans could make a difference. She did not want to die hiding. She wanted to die fighting. "I will need your help," she said. "The transmitter is in the lower section of the station. We have to reroute power from the life support systems to give it enough energy to broadcast." Daniel nodded. "Tell me what to do." They ran through the corridors together, their footsteps echoing off the metal walls. The station seemed different now, not a prison, but a battlefield. Every room they passed held memories of Kira's isolation, of the years she had spent running from her past. Now she was running towards something. The transmitter room was cold and dark. Dust covered the old equipment, and some of the panels had been removed years ago. But the core of the system was still intact. Kira had studied it when she first arrived, back when she still thought she might want to contact the outside world someday. "Start disconnecting the secondary life support," she told Daniel. "We do not need heating or water recycling anymore. All of that power can go to the transmitter. Will we be able to breathe? For a few hours, yes. After that." She did not finish the sentence. They both knew that after that would not matter. Daniel went to work without another word. His hands were still shaking from the nerve damage, but he pushed through it. Kira watched him for a moment, admiring his strength. Before turning to the transmitter, the old machine hummed to life as she fed it power. Warning lights flashed on the control panel, telling her that the system was damaged and unstable. She ignored them. They did not have time for caution. The station shook suddenly, throwing them both against the wall. The Dominion had fired their first shot, a warning blast that hit the outer hull. Alarms began screaming throughout the station. "They are in range," Daniel called out. "I need more time." "How much?" Kira looked at the transmitter's progress bar. 3 minutes to full power. Maybe another minute to upload your data and start the broadcast." Another blast hit the station. The lights flickered, and part of the ceiling fell down in a shower of sparks. They were running out of time. Daniel walked over to her and put his hand on her shoulder. "I can buy you time." "How?" "This shuttle. You said it has weapons." "Not many. but enough to be annoying. He smiled, but there was sadness in his eyes. I can fly out there and distract them. Make them focus on me instead of the station. Kira's heart stopped. No, that is suicide. Maybe, but if it gives you the time you need to finish the broadcast, it will be worth it. Daniel, no. She grabbed his arm, holding him tight. I will not let you throw your life away. I am not throwing it away. I am giving it meaning. He took her hand and held it between both of his. On Caldera 7, you tried to save lives. You failed, but you tried. That is what makes you a hero, Kira. Not success, effort. Caring enough to fight even when you know you might lose. I am not a hero. Yes, you are. And so am I. He leaned forward and kissed her forehead, soft and gentle. Finish the broadcast. Tell the galaxy what the Dominion is doing. What Noon is doing. Make sure Sarah and her daughter did not die for nothing. Before she could stop him, he was gone. Running through the corridors toward the docking bay, Kira stood frozen for a moment, tears burning in her eyes. Then she turned back to the transmitter and worked faster than she had ever worked in her life. Through the station's windows, she watched Daniel's shuttle launch into space. It was tiny compared to the Dominion warship, like a bird flying toward a mountain. But Daniel flew it straight at the enemy, firing every weapon he had. The Dominion ship turned to face him. Their massive guns swung away from the station and pointed at the shuttle instead. Exactly what Daniel had planned. Kira's hands flew across the control panel. The transmitter reached full power. She connected Daniel's data chip and began the upload. All of his recordings, all of his evidence, everything he had risked his life to gather. The station shook again as stray fire hit the hull. Sparks flew around her. The air was getting thin because the life support was failing. But she did not stop. On the screen, she watched Daniel's shuttle dodge and weave around the Dominion weapons. He was a good pilot, better than she had expected. He lasted longer than anyone could have predicted. But finally, a shot hit him. The shuttle spun out of control, trailing smoke and fire. It did not explode, but it was badly damaged. Kira could see it drifting, no longer able to fight. Her heart screamed at her to do something, to save him somehow. But there was nothing she could do, except finish what he had started, 90%. Uploaded .90-5.90-8.100. The broadcast began. Kira watched on her scanner as the signal spread across the sector, reaching every ship and station within range. The truth about the Dominion, about what they were doing to the Vithani homeworld, was now impossible to hide. Hundreds of receivers would pick up the message. Thousands of people would see the evidence. The Dominion warship turned back toward the station. Their main weapon, the one that could destroy planets, began to glow with charging energy. Kira closed her eyes and waited for the end. But the end did not come. Instead, her scanner began beeping with new signals. Ships, dozens of them. Human ships appearing out of faster-than-light travel, surrounding the Dominion, warship like wolves around a wounded bear. The Terran fleet had arrived. They must have been patrolling nearby and received her broadcast. They must have realized what was happening and come to help. The Dominion warship stopped charging its weapon. It was outnumbered now, surrounded by human vessels that were small but numerous. The Dominion were arrogant, but they were not stupid. They knew when a fight was not worth winning. Slowly, the Black Dagger turned away from Station Meridian. It activated its faster-than-light drive and disappeared into the stars. The humans had won. Kira collapsed to the floor, shaking and crying and laughing all at once. She was alive. Against all odds, she was alive. And somewhere out there, drifting in a broken shuttle, Daniel Gray was alive too. She would find him. She would bring him home. And she would never let him go again.